The Albany Common. Welcome. Welcome to the Albany Common Council's caucus and work session, Wednesday, June 16th, 2021. I'll just call out members that are here, the folks that are here for the record prior to getting further into the meeting. Council members Conti, O'Brien, Fahey, Hoey, myself, Kimbrough, Council President Ellis. We have our staff, J.R. Pichardo, Research Council, our clerk, Danielle Gillespie, as well as Brett Williams, Corporation Counsel. And we have with us members of our newly minted members of our Municipal Internet Commission. Councilmember Frederick has always also joined us. So with that, what I'll do is before getting into our agenda, have each of you as new members of the commission, just introduce yourself to the council members here, and if they have any questions, they can ask you. And what I will do is start with, did I leave off anything? I forget anyone? No. I'll start with Miss Mongeau.
You got it.
Okay.
Hello, council members. My name is Caitlin Mongeau. I'm a homeowner in the city of Albany in the Hudson Park neighborhood. I grew up here, not far actually from where I live now. And I'm an attorney and I'm 36 years old and I work in the healthcare space, and I am eager to contribute to the Municipal Internet Committee.
Thank you. No questions. Okay. All right. We will move. Miss Holt, Mrs. Holt, Kara Holt. We're also joined by Councilmember Doche. Go ahead, Ms. Holt, Mrs. Holt. Can you hear me? We can't hear you if you're talking. You appear to be unmuted, but we don't have sound.
Okay.
Okay.
I had to call it on the phone. Sorry about that.
Okay. Okay, yeah, just introduce yourself to the council here.
Hello, my name is Kara Holt. I'm an Albany resident.
Okay, and okay, yeah, sure enough. Next, we'll move on to Mr. Jarzambek. You're up, Scott.
My name is Scott Jarzambek. I am a resident of Albany. I live on Cakeley Street over off of New Scotland, the Buckingham Pond area. Most of you know me through my day job. I'm the executive director of the Albany Public Library and have been a librarian and in the field of information science for most of my career in the city of Albany. For the last 7 years, I've been the executive director, which, Kelly, I know that sounds crazy to think it's been that long, but that's me.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Mr. Robinson.
Okay, good evening, council members. My name is Martin Robinson. I don't live in the city of Albany, but I do work in downtown Albany. I am very much, happy to work with everyone on this commission. And, if anyone has any questions of me, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Okay. Thank you for that, Martin. And
we have Kelly. We have. Oh, there is a question. Mike O'Brien.
okay.
Yeah, I was just wondering, what's kind of the time frame of getting more accessible internet, and what do you envision being the work of the commission to achieve that?
Was that for all the appointees or just for Martin to respond?
No, it's for all.
Thank you.
Repeat, Mike. Sorry.
Can I make a comment on this?
Sure.
Mike, is, part of the, they are charged with coming up with a preliminary report within 120 days, and then a final report within 150 days after that. And then the commission will cease to exist 6 months after that. So
Okay.
that's the time frame.
Okay.
And I should point out too, there is one other person who was selected, Ira Bethia, but Ira, Danielle, he couldn't be here tonight.
I didn't receive that notification. I'll double check, but I did send him a follow-up invite.
Okay, so there is one other person, and it's remember, a 10-member commission, 5 members chosen by the mayor and 5 members by this council. And I believe our head of IT will be helping as well. There will be some of the staff involved. They're still working that out, isn't that correct, Danielle?
Yes.
So we've had interviews over the past 2 weeks, and as usual, we had many great candidates, and it was a difficult choice. And we're really pleased that these individuals are willing to give their time to this very important task. So we really appreciate you all coming tonight.
Thank you for that, Ms. Fahey. And if no other council members have anything, we can let the commission folks go and continue on to our caucus. So thank you all for being here, and thank you for being willing to be a part of this important commission.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, so into actually, you know what, just go through one more time since they're off now. Our folks on the that commission will be Ira Bethia, Caitlin Monjo, Martin Robinson, Kara Holt, and Scott Jarzon Beck. Going right into the
Hey, Kelly, I'm sorry to bother you.
no bother.
President Corey joined us. I don't know if you saw that, but he.
Yeah, yeah, I got him early
Okay,
on.
sorry.
Yep. No, thank you. No. Okay. So going into the agenda, we have the public hearing for Mr. O'Shea's ordinance 1861-21, which we'll be having to start with. And Mr. O'Shea, that we're going to have the hearing for that, but did you want to pass the actual ordinance during that meeting, or was it just we wanted to have the hearing? So, or we still, or do we still have?
Like,
go ahead. Sorry about that.
I would like to pass it at this meeting because the existing suspension that we adopted has ends on July 1. So I would like there to not be any lapse in that suspension of the green roof incentive.
Thank you.
And the planning department is on board with this. And as I've mentioned previously, this came up in discussions of the planning committee as we are looking at the comprehensive review of the USDO, and the planning department continues to be swamped and has not been able to come up with standards for us to adopt now. So hopefully by the time we're adopting the entire comprehensive revision of the USDO, we will have standards, and then we don't need to extend this suspension any longer.
Thank you.
I believe Mr. Bethia has joined us and is in the waiting room. We can admit him.
Okay. Hey, good evening, Mr. Bethia. It's Kelly Kimbrough here from the council. You're muted. It's- And so what we're just looking for a
Hi,
quick,
sorry.
we're just looking for a quick intro, and, you know, let us know why you want to be on the commissioner.
Sure. As I mentioned in the past, about 8 years ago, or when Kathy first ran, myself and a gentleman at the Dormitory Authority by the name of Art Ware, we were actually trying to figure out how we at the authority could possibly finance technologies of this nature for municipalities across the state of New York. The reason why I kind of got involved is there was a young lady that lived in the city who was going to the 11th grade who mentioned to me that she wanted to be a computer programmer. And so I gave her information that she could, get online and do some self-learning. Come to realize that she didn't have internet access in her home. And she hadn't had it, and she was in the 11th grade, going to the 11th grade. And that was kind of heartbreaking to me. So I went back to DASNY, and I knew that we had financed some technologies for hospitals through certain programs. So I met with Art Ware and I said, can we finance this kind of fiber backbone infrastructure for municipalities? And we had never done that before. So we called a few investment bankers and, in the industry, and they said, well, we couldn't do 30-year bonds, but we could do 10 or 15-year bonds on something like that, or 20-year bonds. So that got myself and Art in the mode of beginning to market the idea of municipalities around the state of New York, and then around the country. We met with national leaders in this area, including the people who first initiated Google Fiber in Tennessee. But it kind of began to help us to understand better the true nature of digital divide, the economic benefits associated with it, how some communities across the country were actually getting this done, and what we needed to do here in New York State. Unfortunately, with change in administration, a few years later, we never really were able to get to the point where DASNY was able to do any financings there or create any internal policies to do such a thing. But what Art and I did recognize is that there was an enormous amount of interest, and folks were coming to us to figure out if that was even a possibility. So this all started just from looking at the digital divide issue, but it also made me recognize that, economic development for this century and beyond is really going to be based on access. Only 3% of the country has fiber. Now, I know that Kathy had come to us after 8 months into her administration when she first ran, after she had met with mayors and understood that this was one of the top 3 initiatives in every mayor's agenda as part of the urban agenda. So she came back to Art and I, and she convened a committee, which we were advisors on that committee, but not members because we worked at the authority and we couldn't hold an official role. But we were advisors on that committee where we did had a study done with a firm. We selected the firm, we went through the process, and they came back with a $3 million plan of upgrading, the wireless technology around the city, and they were able to document all the assets that were there. There was also a possibility of a $47 million plan, which would have met more with the goals and objectives that Art and I and other people in the industry would like cities to really go forward with. But that's like a 7 to 10 year initiative. Probably the cost is different today. But over the time period from 8 years ago to now, the technology has changed. How they approach building out that kind of infrastructure has gotten a lot cheaper. It used to be that they would say to municipalities, if you dig once, in other words, if you're doing a dig to put in new sewer drainage, water drains or sewer pipes, water pipes, that you should then lay conduit at that point in time for fiber. But the reality is that fiber is not affected by going 4 feet down. You could do micro trenching today. And so we started talking and that would only require you to go 4 inches to 8 inches down in the ground. So the cost of doing that is much cheaper to lay fiber. one of the things that we recognize in our pursuits is that the Thruway Authority, in its 524 miles of fiber that it ran years ago for the Easy Pass, they also went back and laid an additional 524 miles of what we call dark fiber, which means that it's not being used. And they did that intentionally so that they would be able to lease dark fiber to municipalities. Now, we're right here at the Thruway. Most people don't know that that's a possibility. So I've been working on this issue, again, for the past 8 years with different groups of people on a national level. Very much involved at the tail end on the Obama piece, when they first did the E-rate monies for libraries. We were involved in some of that. But the passion to get this done and to get it done in the right way at a scale that makes sense, that would bring the city of Albany really into the future. If you want to talk about growth of businesses wanting to come to a region, no one wants to go anywhere where there is no fiber. And the comparison, just so you understand the difference in terms of just any kind of broadband versus what we have today versus what we could have. If I'll give you an analogy, if it takes 2.5 hours to get from New York.
Uh-oh.
You're muted.
I don't know. I didn't touch anything. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. I didn't touch anything. Maybe I hit something. But if it takes 2.5 hours to travel from New York City to Albany, if you could imagine, that's what we have today in terms of broadband cable access, copper. Fiber would take 0.9 seconds to travel that same distance. That's the analogy. If you have only 3 lanes going in each direction in terms of capacity, then fiber would give you 600 lanes going in each direction. So you would never have the kind of traffic and loads. That's what businesses expect for the future. Every municipality really understands this. And as we were speaking around the state to many municipalities, they began to get it. They began to understand that fiber to the premises or fiber to the home, fiber to the businesses was really the way to go. And I'm a strong advocate for that. The unique position that Albany, the city of Albany is in, is that we have per capita a high density of what we would call anchor institutions. We call them that at the Dormitory Authority. We finance colleges and universities, right? School districts, and we also hospitals and so forth. And in any community, those are anchor institutions, right? In the North Country, they have an authority that really focused on getting the anchor institutions to help them finance the backbone of the infrastructure that was necessary. In the city of Albany, you have so many government.
So thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Batia. I think maybe that little hiccup was the universe chiming in and saying. But you enlightened us. I look forward to this discussion moving forward. I know you're very knowledgeable on this, and I know you guys are going to do great things for the city in terms of providing that service. To us.
So I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I don't know how you guys make your selection, but I can tell you it's been a passion of mine.
You're already selected. You did realize that, right?
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh,
you are. Yeah. Yes.
Well, actually, that's not technically true until the entire.
Oh, right. You know what?
Right.
That's
right.
That's it. Right. So, right. But you're on
in the runnings.
Right space. Right. You're in the right space. Thank you for that, Judy.
The committee, just to be clear, the committee has made its recommendations, and you are one of the recommendations. And this is just generally considered a formality when we bring people back in to see if council members have any questions you and want to know a little bit before they actually vote on you. But there's general deference to what the committee recommendations are. On the
understand. Well, thank you. Thank you for your recommendation.
Okay. Thank you very much for jumping in and speaking to us. Again, lots of knowledge. Obviously, you know your stuff, and It's gonna be good. You're
Yeah.
gonna be
Yeah.
you'll be an asset if chosen to be on
Yeah.
the committee. Okay, so thank you very much. All right?
Thank you. Thank you.
All
All
right,
right.
okay.
All right.
Thank you,
Take care.
Ira.
Yeah, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
Thank you for that, Judy. I again, I often forget, you know, we do give deference to the committees, and I got a little ahead of myself, but he knows a lot. He's a computer technology person, so and I've had lots of conversations with him. So we got a good group of folks that we selected to be on the commission. So where were we? We mentioned the ordinance. We're going to pass it under local laws. Now we're to local law C. We'll be voting on local law C. That's it under local laws. And moving on. Ordinances.
Yeah, Kelly.
Mhm.
I think under local laws, there's, and JR, correct me, one of them has to be amended.
Oh, Alfredo's, right? Yeah.
Well, no, I don't know what Alfredo
Okay.
sent
It's
out,
F.
but.
Local law
okay.
F, local law H, and I,
H.
they all have to be amended too.
So H came out of committee with amendment. I don't know if if Alfredo intended to amend his, or because that's still on a committee agenda for June 28th. But whatever.
Yeah, I mean, well, he's the sponsor, and
Yeah.
he's not with us, so.
JRI is not amended.
It's not, I'm sorry, not I.
Okay, so that was F and H.
And Jared, can you clarify, because on H that they were also going to do those technical amendments I sent?
That's what I included. That's what I sent out earlier. That was after our discussion.
Right, but that on H, that wasn't, you didn't get anything back from them.
No, the other amendments, those were going to be done separately, I believe.
Yeah, I'll take care of those later, but I just, the other ones I had for H were corrections that had to be made.
Mhm.
Right, from the committee meeting, they say they were going to be doing that separately.
You know what?
So you won't be able to take H up, right? Because H will have to age based on when those technical amendments come out. So
I mean, it was amended as of yesterday, so it has to still age regardless.
It has to be amended at a meeting.
At the meeting, and then it has to
Before
age.
it starts aging.
There are two issues that I had raised. The bigger one we'll do later. The other one was some technical corrections in what Rob had put together, including the correct citations that had to be corrected.
Okay.
Whatever.
So right, and so the intent would be to amend both F.
Yeah.
and
Okay.
H. But that if we're not satisfied, or if you're not satisfied.
No, I'm
with-
just trying to clarify whether or not that he's going to turn
With
around.
switching-
Which he does. I already gave it to him, but if he's going to turn around the revised version with the technical corrections.
Is that something you asked Rob to do, Councilmember Conte?
I sent that to, yeah. Well, I sent
Right.
it, I basically sent it to him.
Yeah, because the one that I sent out, Mr. Conti, was the one that you had sent me, and that was the one that has the as amended date. That's the one that I have from you. Because that was our whole conversation.
Okay,
The
all right.
confusion happened at the committee meeting.
Okay, I don't know that I saw anything
Right.
formally come back that was, because what I sent still was marked as a draft and everything else, so I don't know what.
Yeah, and I removed the watermark. I removed that watermark and everything, so.
All right, well, okay.
Right, and from the,
If you didn't send it out to everybody, because I guess we still, even though it's not on everybody's desk, you still have to do something.
one more time, Richard, would you say?
As far as aging local laws and them having to be in print for a certain amount of days, I mean, I don't know how we're doing that nowadays and it being on members' desks.
I mean, they're virtual desks?
I don't know. Why don't we just move on?
I don't think you'll have the appropriate amount of time. We'll resend it again, but it probably won't come up for a vote at this meeting in June.
No, it cannot come up
because of
for a
the
vote
age
at this
requirements.
meeting, but it has
It'll
to
be the one
It
in
has to be
July.
amended.
Yep,
Right.
but we'll send it out.
And from the committee meeting, Richard, you were kind of having a conversation with Rob about these amendments that you sent them. That's what you're looking for, those changes that have been
Well, what I
made,
said,
and they
yeah,
haven't
I'm
been.
never
Yeah.
sure that Rob understands what I'm talking about, but you can go ahead.
I think that, I mean,
I would like to chime in here because I am a little concerned. I do think that it is helpful generally when we can before caucus to get the version as amended as it will then be amended at the next meeting so that we're all clear on this. Richard took some time and I appreciate it because I started noticing some issues and he took some time to actually go in and do track changes on a document that frankly other eyes should be picking this up. This should not be left, and this should not be left to common council members to be doing that kind of proof. And I say that at this point in time, as we are looking at losing the benefit of Richard's careful review of these in about 6 months' time.
Can I just interrupt, Judy? Because going back and looking what you sent out, JR, it looks like you did send out the version with my edits.
That's what I was saying earlier. That's
Okay.
what you had sent me is what I sent out.
Yeah. You see what happens is on these emails and how it works is there are so many like attachments attached on this chain, including old
Yep.
ones. And then I'm seeing what you sent out. There are like 10 attachments. And I thought you only had the 3. So I'm opening up the 10 attachments now. I'm finding the one that you.
And it's dated as amended 6/14/2021.
Right. Okay. So I don't know if everybody's going to see that because there's a mix of like there are 1, 2, 3 versions of local law F that come up, and there are like anyway, it's
there. So.
Yeah, this email system isn't necessarily the most user-friendly, shall we say?
Okay,
Can I ask you a question on local law G, which is Richard's? My memory from the law committee meeting was that was passed out favorably.
It was,
and it
yes.
didn't need any amendment.
Correct, no.
So is that going to pass? I know there was some discussion about originally they wanted to wait and put the whole package, pass the whole package together, but everything's been so delayed that I thought the consensus at the law committee meeting was to pass these things.
Yes.
At the next available meeting.
Yes, I had thought local law I would move at the next meeting.
So, and local law G.
Yeah, I thought Owusu thought his would move as well, but
yeah,
it sounds like it has to age.
Yeah, G and I.
So G and I are slated for a vote.
They can pass on Monday.
Okay, that's what I
H needs
thought.
to be amended, and F still has another committee meeting.
Okay. So we're looking forward to a vote on agenda item 6 and B.
Right. So local law C, local law G, and local law I. And Judy, you were making a point about Richard, us losing him and his careful eye and stuff. Did you want to continue?
No, that's enough. Let's move on.
She's correct. She's correct.
I mean, we should all just be so thankful that Richard is taking the time to do these kind of careful reviews. And I have long had a certain level of frustration with what comes out of Corporation Counsel's office, not having another set of eyes put on it. People reviewing it in the way that Richard does. That should be done by the administration before it comes to us, because then we have potentially 16 people here plus staff having to do that kind of review and having to go back and forth with edits for technical amendments that we should be looking at the substance of things. So it's currently a little less of an issue, especially with Richard here. I do a certain amount of that. And of course, JR also does a certain amount of that, but it shouldn't fall to him to be doing technical corrections on the administration's legislation. He should be doing our discussion changes, or helping us with language for what we need to amend with regard to, once there's a substantive discussion, that should be the bulk of our work, or when we're drafting our own legislation. But when it comes out of the administration, we really should be holding them to a higher standard than we're currently getting with regard to legislation. Just, potentially more of an issue in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Okay. That was it for local laws. Okay, on to ordinances held. We have, Mr. O'Brien's ordinance 155221 as amended. We'll be moving forward with. And next ordinance, Mr. O'Shea's ordinance, which we spoke about, number 24 on the agenda, ordinance 186121. We already spoke about that. That's it for ordinances. On to resolutions introduced. We have resolution 546221. Resolution. Making Jim Sano a marriage officer. I'll carry that. That's 546221.
Can I ask about that? Is it because Jim did serve as a elected official, or how is it that he's able to? I'm just curious.
That's a
JR, do you know the answer to that?
I think we can appoint anyone temporarily.
Oh, okay.
The Common Council has the absolute authority on marriage officers.
All right, great. Thank you.
I haven't looked at the language. I
we've
assume this is for a time limited purpose.
Yeah, it's just for that little time frame. Mr. Flynn gave me, said that he just needs it up until that date, and that's what I put in as the expiration.
Correct.
Okay. The next resolution. My apologies. I have my papers. For resolution of Common Council appointing the members of the Albany Commission on Municipal Internet. Who do we have listed as the sponsor for that? Anani?
That's a Wusu.
Yes, that's what I thought. I'm missing my packet. And I'm sure we'll all be co-sponsors on that. All right. So that'll be a pass. And the next one's mine, 56, 6221, honoring the life and legacy of Charles Trainum and renaming a portion of Mohawk Street after him. That'll be a referral to General Services. And that will be it for the agenda.
Real quick, did you say the appointments one, Mr. Nani is going to carry it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll change it because it says planning's carrying it, so I'll change that.
Yeah, he was the initial sponsor.
You know he wants them all, so I mean, he had his way. He's the ultimate sponsor. So yeah, what I was actually hoping to do with the time when we went over, or when we got done with the agenda, was to kind of try to touch on the COVID task force. And what I wanted to do was ask a member, there's only one here, which is Ms. Frederick, to kind of just bring us up to speed on what's been going on with that. And all members have seen the link. There's a page on the city's website you can go to and watch the meetings in their entirety. But I was just kind of looking for just a brief kind of update on where we are. Do you mind doing that, Ms. Frederick?
Yeah. So right now, in general, we're sort of in the needs assessment phase. The various COVID task force members have been split into different groups depending on their specialty, whether it's housing, travel, healthcare, for example, and they've sort of had little internal meetings just to get some thoughts flowing about where things are and what they think needs might be. And now the survey has been released that is public, really assessing just a needs assessment survey based on, where do you think the most needs are in the city of Albany, and then breaking down the sectors, within housing, for example, what do you think the biggest need is, or what's your priority of need level, things like that. So that is open, it's online currently. The original date for submission was this Friday, based on feedback and also timing of just the nature of the timing that has been pushed to next week. So it will now be due by next Friday. So there's more time for it to be dispersed and for answers to be received. So that's out there. I'd say, as much as we can push to our constituencies, that would be great. Try to get people to fill it out. The more responses, the better. It would give us a good lay of the land and sort of help with next steps.
What is the actual date then that people need to submit responses by?
By next Friday. So that is the
25th.
The 25th. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Pichardo, did you have?
Yeah, I just, real quick, you said next week?
So yeah, it was originally this Friday, but I spoke to the administration last night and they're extending that to next Friday. So I don't know if that's been, fully out there yet, but they're definitely extending to the 25th.
Oh, okay, because that was one concern that came on our Facebook page, that they were concerned that it was too quick of a turnaround.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, too quick of a turnaround, and the questions are, it's probably a little bit more complicated than the average person would need it to be. So I've gotten a number of calls with folks that
it's a lengthy survey. Probably you're going to need about 15 to 20 minutes to really think through and fill it out. But, if there's questions that are challenging, you could skip those, maybe just answer the ones that are, more pertinent to you, but the more responses, the better, obviously.
Right. Thank you. Mr. O'Shea?
Yes. I'm continue to be confused how council members are supposed to interface, I guess, on this. And I did go in and I filled out the survey partially so I could see the questions. I found it a little bit frustrating while it has the open-ended questions, it almost feels like everything is a priority. Everything that is listed is presumed to be a priority. I'm not quite sure how questions are going to, how things are going to be handled. But one of my feelings about the funding and how do we address the impacts of COVID has so much to do with what I refer to as the lost year for our children, who, if their parents were working from home, they were marginally supervised, had limited support in school. And I know that the schools are getting a certain amount of funding, but I feel that they've lost structure. They've, to the extent that they had it in their lives. I know a lot of our children don't have a lot of structure, but school, in-person school did provide a certain amount of that. As we know, a lot of our children weren't able to attend school in any way, shape, or form because of the issues of the internet. I also have had some conversations with people about the lost year for many of our students who were planning on doing something like going to college or launching their careers. There's something about in the questions that says something about, oh, not enough training, opportunities, et cetera, for people 25 and older. And I'm like, this is when so many people get launched in the rest of their lives through their freshman year of college. So many students lost their sophomore years of college, their senior years of college. And some people thrived with that. Some people were, finishing up their senior year of high school, and having that dialogue, that cross connection happening while they try and figure out these life decisions, these important decisions. So I know a number of people who opted not to go to college because it was hard enough to figure out how to afford it to begin with, and then and they didn't want to pay for something that was not the whole experience of going away to college or attending classes in person, et cetera. And I just feel like the survey, it's missing that piece. And I'm really very nervous about the future of our young adults in our community and our children, and this incredible lost year that they experienced, and how do we get them back on track for that? And one of the things, there's talk about the city having so much programming. When my sons were younger, they didn't take advantage of a lot of the programs in the city parks, but there were several hours of basketball camp down at Woodlawn Park, where there was supervision and drills and beverages provided and equipment provided and that kind of thing. And I've heard so many people talk over the years about how that is lacking. And I feel like that kind of structure can be so important to help our children feel like they matter, to provide some healthy structure in their lives, to get them out exercising, socializing, et cetera. Anyway, I wanted to share that with all of the members who are on this task force, I know that there's generally, when the whole task force gets together, it's more just reporting out of what the committees are doing. And a lot of the work, it seems, hopefully is going on in these committees. It's a lot to get at, but in any case, this is, I gotta say, I'm kind of semi-panicked about how do we get kids back on track. People will have, they'll go and they'll interview for jobs, and they get jobs, or they don't. They go back to their offices, and will regain a certain amount of that structure. It's a whole different ball of wax for an 8-year-old to have completely missed this. And I want to say, I remember, in my household, we went to school sick. You had to have like a fever or the measles or something like that if you were going to stay home. And when I did stay home, if I missed a day in school or 2 days in school, I went back into school and I felt stupid. And I really feel for our kids who I don't, they've got so many challenges that they're overcoming, and the idea of them missing because they didn't have the technology, a half a year, 3/4 of a year, full year of school, and going back and having their esteem drop during that, along with just having lost the benefit of developing life skills through being in the classroom. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree with you, Judy. And I think a couple things. So on the survey, I think there's a catch-all bucket sort of towards the bottom where like comments like that are critical to see like what was missed in this first survey. And so putting things like that is huge. And then also, I know Kawita is a part of the task force, and I think the mayor stated in the past that she chose her to be on because of the understanding the money that's going to the school district. How can we work together and make a joint effort and make sure that we solve these issues for our kids, because losing a year is unimaginable to me, and I'm sure many kids are struggling.
I hope we figure it out.
Hey, Kelly, you're on mute.
Also, we got to talk about, or need to think about, Chief Hawkins and the prospect of him leaving. Not sure of a timeline. Everyone saw, just like I did, the news story that said he was in the running for the Akron police chief job. I'm told that the chief has retired. I thought we at least had till the end of the year, but my understanding is the chief out there is retired, and so they'd probably be trying to, pull the trigger sooner rather than later. So where that leaves us is uncertain. I did speak with the mayor's folks about it, and we are kind of waiting to see, basically. There's some things we can't control in there. And and my understanding is that both the police and the administration is preparing to, to function, without him, hoping to get the chance to get some things right before and if he leaves, but preparing to protect the city. So Miss Frederick.
So you might have answered this, but my question is, do we have any further insights into if he's made like top 3, top 2, or is he still top 4?
It was last I heard it was top 4.
Okay.
Mr. O'Brien.
A couple of questions. Are there other cities that he's applied to? Because the only one we found out about that was the city of Akron is so open and transparent that they posted it on their website. So there might be other cities. I mean, he may have put out a lot of resumes. And it also raises another related question. Do we know how many, well, we know we're down about 90 officers. And we know there's a new class going on, but I heard that they have less than 20 candidates in the new training class. So that bodes badly for the pace of retirements and transfers, et cetera, that we're probably going to pass 100 vacancies out of a 320 person police force, which is also as major a concern as the chief leaving. So I don't know, it's and you know, I know we did a national search the year that Caucus, and he was a good chief, and he came from the Albany Police Department. So is it a foregone conclusion that it's going to be somebody brought in from the outside who has to catch up both on what's specific to Albany and even what's specific to New York State? I don't know. It raises a whole host of questions to me, which gives me a very foreboding feeling about where our police force is going.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a couple questions in there. I'm not sure I caught them all, but there again, I would imagine, and actually just not imagine, from the conversation, it would the search would be, you know, the national search. If an Albany person that ended up being the person, you know, the one selected, then they would, you know, be selected. But I think the search process would be the same, and that's kind of what I got from talking to the mayor and her folks. And
that search process took about 6 months.
Yeah,
yeah,
I was a part of that group that reviewed the candidates, well, the final candidates. But yeah, so it's a lengthy process. And you mentioned, or you talked about retirements outpacing our recruiting. That probably more than likely it probably will be an issue. I think what could help us though is if and I believe APD voted, the union voted on, you know, how, you know, the officers, how they, whether it be a PBA or Council 82, that vote was in the last couple of days. So I think getting through that and you know, getting a new contract worked through would be helpful, because, you know, it would take care of a lot of the unknowns that many of the officers are facing. But again, most of the comments you made and the questions, yeah, it's a lot of unknowns. Unfortunately, it's really a terrible place to be in, with all the you know, the violence and the stuff going on, not just here but around the country. So we again, I see this as possibly adding another stress to, or more stress to the folks at APD moving forward. Mr. Johnson and then Mr. Hoey, you got your real hand up. Mr. Johnson got Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Kelly. And I hope, you know, I apologize, I just jumped on, but I just would like to have a responsible conversation when it comes to, you know, the future of APD. And one of the things that I think, you know, and this is no knock against Chief Hawkins, but like when we go and do a national search, it takes a whole lot of time, number one. And number two, like, I think that going outside of APD, we kind of lost the edge that community policing was providing us in the last several years. Let's just say that. And, you know, like, if for those that know that the brains of community policing has left APD, you know, the brains that operated and when we were functioning on a higher level. And so, like, I think that that conversation needs to come to the forefront, because, you know, that factors in and contributes to some of the violence that we're dealing with, and it's not and not factor in part where you placing blame on APD, but we have like those that know, we have a lot of unhappy officers, and they unhappy for several different reasons, and so I just think that as leaders of the city, and with the knowledge that we have to have those conversations that others are choosing not to have, for whatever reason, and that's something that I would like us to take a strong look at, because the morale of APD has been low, and it's just getting lower on top of what's going on nationally. So I just think that we really need to take a hard look at the possible consideration of some of the people that left the department in the recent years, and look at what's truly best for APD moving forward and what's best for the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Hoey.
Yeah, and I want to echo a lot what Councilman Johnson said. But we do have, I've dealt with just recently with Deputy Chief Hogan, and I think we have a competent group of people within the force that at least they could take over interim, and I'd like to see it, like he said, within the organization be able to move up. I mean, we did an experiment, we brought somebody in from the outside, but I think we need to go back and look inside. The other thing, I am concerned, Mike O'Brien brought up about the next class. I watched them, they were doing testing at UAlbany some weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, and there's only 17 out of that class. But there's 17, I was very impressed at the physical strength. They were doing the run and push-ups and stuff like that. So I watched, I stopped and watched, I worked there, and about a half hour just watching these recruits. And I think we got a good class coming up, and we just got to keep, recruiting people and having more classes. I don't know necessarily larger classes, but now with COVID kind of on the wane, we might be able to have a larger class. The final point, and I don't know what we can do about it, but we really need to get them recognized so they can get a contract. I mean, working all these years without any raises, just think about it. It's heartbreaking to me, because every year I get my little 2% raise, but it makes a difference. It means that my organization respects me. They realize that costs are going up, especially now. You can't buy lumber, meat, or anything. The prices are going up, gasoline. We really need to do something. And I don't know on the administrative level or what. I'll sign anything. I'll go protest for anybody. We need to get them set up with some kind of organization, union organization, so we can get them a contract. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Hoey. Anyone else on that issue? Okay, also like to mention, I'd spoken before about meeting Ms. Gillespie to kind of try to work through the chamber issue. I guess that may be somewhat of a moot point with the change in the law, but we did go through and inspect the equipment and run through the program to see that we could get it running both in the chambers, and we could have members participate remotely. Am I correct in saying that, Ms. Gillespie?
Yep, we could do a bifurcated meeting.
Okay, all right. So and again, with everything that changed yesterday, I mean that's a conversation for maybe down the road, because actually when we had the conversation before about getting back in there, it seemed like a lot of members weren't feeling going back or for various reasons. But again, we'll put that conversation on the shelf for a minute. And lastly, we did the interviews for legislative aid. We had 4 or 5 candidates that we went through. Kind of decided on one, and we're having trouble communicating with that person, and Ms. Gillespie's reached out to him, and he hasn't gotten back to us. So I think we're back to the drawing board on that. And we're in the meantime, and in between time, trying to look at a temporary option to take some of the workload off of Ms. Gillespie and Mr. Pichardo, or to help them. We got some catching up to do with some meeting stuff and minutes, and so we're exploring that option also in conjunction with HR, and Ms. Gillespie's really overseeing and trying to work through that for us. So do you want to say anything about that, Ms. Gillespie?
I think Councilmember Hoey has
Hoey,
a question.
Yeah, I saw him. Go ahead, Mr. Hoey.
Yeah, I mean, Ms. Gillespie and JR have been working so hard. You know, without this third person, is there anything we can do for them, like short term, like for a bonus, kind of, because they had to work so much extra to keep things going? I mean, it's 1 month I could see, 2 months, yeah, but this has been a long time for both of them. I've seen them on meetings at night, and they're exhausted, and we do put a lot of demands on them. So I don't know if there's something we can do if you explored it, but maybe I should be doing this in executive. I apologize. Yeah, I'm sorry, but it'd be nice to do something for them.
Tom, you're speaking our language.
Yes, that's that's a great thought and idea, and this probably isn't where we should be talking about it at, but we can have that discussion, just not here. Meti, go ahead, Mr. O'Shea.
So you said something about with regard to the change in the law. Does that mean that we are going back to live meetings, that we're required to go back to live meetings?
We're not. I said I said that what the changes yesterday probably kind of rendered it, us trying to work through that stuff a moot point, but not so much. Not meaning we're going all right back right now. We're still working on the stuff, but we're trying to work through sorry.
I mean, I'm still waiting. We're still waiting on advisal from the governor's office and with NICOM on right now, because the governor has said he's going to keep the emergency order still in place, but at some point they will phase out, and there's a TBD of potentially September, but we're not 100% sure on that one. We're just waiting on advisal. But I will say this, like the county planning board that I have tomorrow, they moved to in person. So I'm going to Voorheesville tomorrow now. So I'm just giving that heads up that we don't know how much longer we'll have this virtual platform. Again, the open meetings law does allow for it, but the difference was the active participation portion, because as it currently reads in the open meetings law, if we do keep it remote, then anybody, any place, location, anybody's meeting, the public has a right to be there. So your house, my house, everybody would have to be allowed in.
Right, and just thinking, I'm thinking maybe, and it's up to members, not just me. I was thinking on the outside, September, reasonably, just based on the way the summer works and folks moving around, and that's what I saw. I think that's reasonable to shoot for. Does that make sense?
Contingent on the executive orders.
Right, contingent upon, right.
I do think that we do need certainly notice, because some of us have gotten used to doing things in a certain way, and knowing we don't necessarily have to be in Albany for every committee meeting and every council meeting or caucus, has been, has given us added flexibility. And if that flexibility disappears, then either people are not going to be attending, or they're going to be scrambling to change their other plans. So having some, my goal is have notice, you know, a month or two is a good goal, I think, at least. And
Okay.
September makes sense to me.
Okay. Ms. Fahey, you were trying to.
Well, I was just curious to know, I mean, I know that the county's vaccination rate is up around 70, but what is, anybody know what the city of Albany says? I was just curious.
I think the mayor announced like we were at like 62, I think it was citywide, but we still do have, and she did notice in an email that I remember seeing that she did notice some disparities of vaccination rates, particularly in the underserved and the lower wards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they do talk about that variant from, I guess, India as being of concern, but I was just curious, thanks.
Right, and just before you, Mr. Johnson, and that is the issue, because the way the word came out, it's on, you know, everyone masks off, and then you're relying on people to be honest about where they've been and exposures, and so it says for unvaccinated folks to mask up, but who's going to do that? Most of the folks that aren't wearing masks already and don't trust the vaccination, they're not going to tell us. I don't think, and therein lies the problem. So I'd hate to have us all get back in there and have someone get sick. So that's my concern. Mr. Johnson.
With all due respects to people's concerns, you know, we have been out of the chambers for a long time, and to say 2 months or 3 months from now is a suitable time, I think that you know, this is not the normal way of doing business, and you know, although it has been convenient in some regards, it has been an inconvenience in other regards. You know, you know, I try to be respectful to, you know, people's positions, because everybody feels differently, you know, about, you know, their comfort in re-entering life as we once known it. But I just hear procrastination, and, you know, we still are living and when we go to the shopping center, you know, there's people in there that have masks on and don't have masks on, and when we go to the restaurants, there's people that have masks on, and so I just would like to see us get back to, you know, some normalcy, and I think that, you know, we have been very protective of, you know, the public's rights in regards to being able to be a part of our meetings. And, you know, it was nice to hear fireworks going off last night outside of my window, celebrating, you know, us going back to, you know, life as we once knew it. And I would, you know, hope that we can get back into the chambers, and so we can, you know, do the things that is needed for this city. So I look forward to getting back into the chambers. I have worked in the city school district the whole year with in-person learning, and, you know, have been fortunate enough not to get sick. And I just, you know, would love to see us back in the chambers, you know, doing the great work that we all signed up to do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johnson. Anything further? If nothing else, entertain a motion to adjourn. Caucus,
One thing, I'm sorry. I've been moving around. I think, I just want to make sure members were aware, I think the last time we met, the legislature hadn't completed action, but the permit parking bill has passed now, both houses.
Oh, wow.
So that's likely to be signed into law. I'd be surprised if it isn't, but regardless, we can't wait for the governor to act, to begin to take action, because there is a process we have to go through to implement that. And we have to have things in place. by, well, we have to have it done by the end of, before the year is out. And in terms of systems, I'm looking at Danielle, because at the tail end, the last part of this is actually implementing it through, you know, the renewal process and new applications that Danielle's going to have to take care of. So I'm going to reach out to the mayor's office to try to figure out in terms of who the point person is going to be and what process we're going to be going through. But this is going to involve the planning department. I feel sorry for them because we're dumping so much on them, but the planning department has to be involved. Obviously, traffic safety, Bill Trudeau. I feel sorry for him again because Bill is really an integral part of this, and he was, you know, last time. We're going to need the parking authority's involvement, obviously the city clerk, law department to some extent. So in addition to those members, and we have to figure that out, who have a direct, you know, interest in this process because they want, you know, streets designated or the boundaries expanded or whatever. I know it's Alfredo, I know Joyce. You know, I know there's some issues up in Pine Hills. There are some, even with existing zones, for example, the Pembroke Triangle area is one where we probably want to look at to add some in there. So I'm just saying, we're going to have to clarify this whole process, but it is going to be a lengthy process, and it has to get done, and we have to have all this put in place because bringing in new applicants and new streets is not easy. There's a lot of work that has to be done, especially out in the field. So just to give a heads up on that.
Did I hear you volunteer on the council's end to be
Yeah, right.
in touch with the mayor and
I will reach out to the mayor and just to figure out how, you know, because I can't direct all her departments.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
And it has to understand that they have to be a part of the process. And we can't, you know, again, we can't do it on our own because we're not going to go out there. I'm not sending JR out to count parking spots and do a parking inventory or anything like that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Richie, and thank you for your work on it. I know it's been a couple of years in the making, and I'm glad it passed. Because
yeah, I'm surprised we got it. So I'm surprised we got what we wanted. I don't know how easily. You know, we owe Pat and John and Neil some thanks for them getting it through.
Thank you. So motion to adjourn. Ms. Fahey, second. Ms. Frederick, all right, all in favor. Let's go. All right. Thank you all.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Good night.